And welcome back to another episode of Dogs on the Couch, where everybody's allowed to have an opinion. It does not matter if you played the game, you were watching. So you're allowed to have an opinion as well. I tend to do this quite often. I forget to say, by all means, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, subscribe. Doesn't cost you a dime. Helps grow the channel. It also helps push these videos into the algorithm so that way maybe like-minded people can have a chance to view them. I slowly see the subscribers going up one by one, literally, and I greatly appreciate every subscription, most definitely. Now let's get to business. We have yet again our friend from at RealCavsFans.com on Twitter, Luca. We would like to welcome him back. Open arms. We are glad to see you back, my man. We greatly appreciate you for coming back through, gracing the platform yet again with your presence, my guy.
Appreciate it. Hopefully this doesn't take away a subscriber and adds one, at least.
Yeah, man, by all means, okay? By all means. And not only that, it might be some people like, this guy don't know what he talking about, you know what I'm saying? And then maybe they be like, all right, yeah, time. He finally got somebody on there with some sense. Yeah, right? Right. For real, man. So I remember the last time, last time we was on, man, we went through a few different things as far as like, what we felt like we wanted to see, going forward into the playoffs. Gave a few different scenarios, opinions on certain players, different things of that nature. We've had quite a bit transpire since that time, two series going to, game sevens. I've been on the channel going crazy about that throughout the course of each series, but no need to revisit any of that. I've been seeing. I trust me, I've seen it. But no need to go through any of that. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, you survived. So hey, whatever happened, it happened, and ultimately, you survived and you got here. So now we got to address us being here, and like we closed out last time, man. I said that there was probably gonna come a time where something was gonna happen, or Kenny was gonna be Kenny, and then I was gonna be on fire. And lo and behold, this is that time. So first and foremost, one that I know we're probably gonna have more similar thoughts on than differences. Let's start there first. Game one. We all know the major thing, which was the fourth quarter collapse. First, from my personal perspective, just from my opinion, okay, there's a lot of
that's why they pay you the big bucks to have your personal opinion on here.
Ain't it? Okay. Stephen A. Smith, I got nothing on me. Never mind. Because lo and behold, next thing you know, it's gonna be more people talking crazy about me than it is. I bet you don't know what he's saying. Look at him. He's all emotion. He don't know what he's talking about. That's fine with me, as long as they click, right?
Yep.
But man, there was a major part of neglect, in my personal opinion, that took place in that fourth quarter. It also kind of brought up kind of some of what I mean in certain scenarios where I say you may not necessarily need a data sheet in front of you to look at to tell you what can fix your first of all, what's wrong, and then B, what can be done to fix whatever problem it is that's going wrong. So what I saw at the end, with that fourth quarter, is a lot of discourse, not just with Kenny, but also with James Harden, terrible defender. And then even Kenny caught slack because, afterwards he's saying, all right, well, Harden has been one of our better isolation defenders, if you will, and caught a lot of slack, for saying that. When respectfully, there may be some defensive metrics. There may be a data sheet somewhere that supports, spurts of Harden being a very good isolation defender. The problem is the data sheet that says that was null and void with what we were watching, which was, I think there was 8 straight possessions where they forced a switch. Let me not say force. That's wrong. They just caused the switch because the Cavs conceded the switch. Nobody wanted to fight over the screen. Not just Dean Wade, anybody else either. There was nobody fought over the screen. Okay. So I don't want to say forced. The Cavs just conceded the switch 8 straight times. You watch Jalen Brunson go to work on a guy who in that moment is struggling to guard him. Even if it wasn't just the worst, he's struggling to guard him. And then Kenny has this thing where he says, some of the bounces were unlucky. And again, data sheet, their shot quality was in the first percentile. On a data sheet, Kenny, it looks and sounds wonderful. But the problem with that data sheet is it doesn't account for a player catching fire like Jalen Brunson. So once that player catches fire, and you don't even have to catch fire. If you're a shooter, there's a thing called the shooter's roll, which means you put the ball up and you get a couple lucky bounces, and next thing you know, the ball rolls in. And it happens more for you than it does other people. That's why it's called the shooter's roll. So for me, once you get a player that already has the shooter's touch, but now you didn't let him get a lather and start cooking, well, the chances are he's going to get more of those lucky bounces to end up going his way because he done already built up the lather and he done start cooking now. So it was ironic to me that you allowed Harden to go 8 straight possessions one-on-one. And then when you finally decided to send almost like a blitz or a quick double coverage, it was when they had cut the lead to 6. And then respectfully, if we playing numbers, if we doing data sheets, I would have rather you stick with the one-on-one with Harden based on the time that was left in the game. I would have rather you stuck with the one-on-one with Harden because Brunson was more so working his way into the mid-post area and putting up shots there. Those are 2 points. Well, what you did when you blitzed, when we was only down 6, you gave up 2 wide open threes that Jalen Brunson was able to just easily hit the open man. Easy money. And then shout out to Mike Brown for playing a Landry Shamet, putting a guy like that in the game and actually giving him an opportunity to be able to knock down a shot like that. If his butt is glued to the bench, he wouldn't be out there to have that opportunity. So that, and then last but not least, 22 to 3 run, no timeouts. And then Kenny has the famous quote after the game, I like to hold on to my timeouts. I didn't want to get down to the last minute of the game and only have 1 timeout and it's a 1 or 2 point game. Kenny, first of all, you have 4 timeouts. So we know that you don't like to just have 1 timeout at the end of the game. You want to have 4 of them. You might even think that you could put them in your book bag and take them home with you and use them in the next game. Unfortunately, that's not the case, Kenny. And for you to actually come out and say that post-game as opposed to saying, you know what, man, as much as I like to keep my timeouts, this maybe in hindsight, which is always 2020, this maybe could have been an instance where I could have burned one of those timeouts to try to give my guys, a blow or to try to help them out or just calm the crowd down and stop the momentum. Because again, momentum is something that you can't quantify that on a data sheet. It's something that you have to feel. Momentum is not measured in a metric, in an analysis somewhere. You literally have to feel it. So those were my major takeaways from that game 1. What say you?
You can measure momentum in decibel level.
You know what? Touche, man. Touche. Touche.
No, I very much align with you on that. I think one of the biggest disappointments too was how well he had coached the third quarter. Mike Brown had went to Kenny went to the high pick and roll. Mike Brown kept hedging and blitzing, and they were just eating that up possession after possession. Very similar to the way that Brunson was eating Harden up, and they kept going to it. Then you saw Kenny bring Dennis Schroeder in, start setting a pick with him, knowing that there was an open avenue to get downhill quickly and putting the ball in the hands of a playmaker who can make that roll and pass on the run. Like, those were all good things that he did. Not only then doing Hacka Mitchell Robinson through 4 straight possessions, only netting 1 point for the Knicks. Like, those are all really good coaching moments within that quarter. So to see him do all those good things and to pass it on and double it in the fourth quarter going the opposite way was just infuriating. I mean, you talk about the timeouts. He was saving timeouts he literally could not save. Once you get down to 2 minutes, you only get 2 timeouts, or I think it's 3 minutes. You only get 2 timeouts. You can't take additional timeouts with you. So there was ones that he just threw away just to throw away. And you kind of had mentioned as well about the feel. I don't know if it's metrics or feel, but I think he has too much trust in his players at times, or too much trust in that things will even out, when it's not panicky to course correct. You're just adjusting on the fly to get your team back where they need to be. You know, with James Harden, like you said, it very well may be a good defender in isolation, in a vacuum, but there's also compounding interest where once things start to stack on top of each other, they get a lot bigger. And in that case, that deficit in the way he was guarding Brunson got a lot bigger. Yes, James is not the best defender, but I think that was very, very much more so Kenny hanging his guy out to dry than it was James not performing. Harden was doing the best he could in the situation. Probably not the best guy for that situation, but I can't blame him as much as Kenny for not doing what he did to support him more. And then you talk about the double team that they sent. All it was a soft double, and the way I would describe it is that if Shedeur Sanders got that type of blitz pickup on pressure, he would be able to eat all day behind an offensive line who would not allow the pressure to get to him. Same thing with that. You allow a good decision maker like Brunson to sit back, not feel that pressure while playing with an advantage behind that blitz. What do you think is going to happen? If you're going to, the whole point of a blitz is a speed up process, make him uncomfortable, the same way they did to Cade Cunningham. We saw what that did to him. Not that Cade and Jalen are 1-to-1, but the whole point of sending a blitz or a double is to speed them up, speed up their tempo, make them make decisions quicker or in a way that they weren't anticipating. Doing a soft double is showing the pressure while not feeling the pressure, letting them take advantage of the pressure behind them. So, and nonetheless, so with Sam Merrill and James Harden, 2 guys who are not going to disrupt passing lanes like a Dean Wade or Tyson or Keon Ellis or Mobley or whomever else that has some sort of size and length to be able to disrupt, and get hands and vision lanes that make it more difficult. With Sam and James, those are not guys that have long arms or active hands necessarily that are going to disrupt that. So just the whole thought process behind it to do that at that point with those people in that way, after all that happened, it just didn't make sense on top of the timeouts. Just to see all that hard work that they did slip away was just infuriating to watch. I mean, you're just sitting there hoping things would change and hoping you're not seeing what you're actually seeing, and then you keep seeing it, and then the same thing just keeps playing over again, is infuriating. And I think to kind of cap everything off, it's the fact that this isn't Toronto or Detroit. The margin for error is a lot slimmer, a lot higher you climb Everest. And the fact that you had something in hand to give you the advantage you needed and give that right back, and basically have to win 5 times out of 7 games without home court against a really good team, it's hard to fathom. But I think it all gets back to Kenny just has this undying trust, which is good at times in the process and his people. We heard him talk about process in the post game, that they had a good process. Even last game 2, we had a good process. Well, that may not be a good process if it didn't lead to what ultimately happened. There's variance, things happen, but sometimes you have to readjust and adjust on the fly. And, I don't think he is that good at being able to make adjustments as needed. Going back to even Detroit and Toronto, it took them 2, 3, 4, 5 games to make an adjustment. You don't have that type of time here with New York.
I 100%, man, I 100% agree. And I definitely think, like I say, because I, you know, I mean, of course, I watch from a distance, man. I'm keeping up. And again, a lot of things that I was seeing from you, very, very, I mean, very, very similar to, a lot of the sentiments that I was expressing, myself. Of course, I was a lot more enraged and animate about it, but you know what I mean. But for the most part, I mean, it was pretty much spot on, man. It was pretty much identical. I mean, and I guess I could use this piece to kind of transition into the next part, because like I said, I wanted to get that out the way first, because I'm like that. I'm pretty sure we on the same page with that one, especially from what I've been seeing and everything.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
To kind of use this to transition to the next phase that I wanted to talk about, because a lot of those things that took place, again, with as far as in game, and like we say, even in the previous series, it's just I didn't want to harp too much on those, because again, I mean, them series is already over with. However it diced out, I mean, you ended up winning. But some of the things that I was saying was my major concerns, even when like last time we had spoke, it was certain lineup rotations. I felt like getting people accustomed to playing with other individuals. So, like, for example, when we first acquired Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder, a lot of the minutes that those guys they saw them together in tandem a lot. He would deploy them together. Like, both Schroeder and Ellis would go out there together, and that would be like the unit would have those two guys in it together. And then he would experiment with Schroeder with Donovan, and then a little bit with James. And then I think we both agreed that we preferred Schroeder with Donovan as opposed to Schroeder with Harden. It was a much better idea and fit because Donovan is better off the ball as opposed to Harden is. But again, the point was, at that particular time, Kenny would deploy certain lineups here, there, piece, whatever, what have you. And back then I was being convinced, by Twitter and everybody else, of course, that, oh, he's just experimenting with the lineups. And I'm like, okay, well, how much experimenting are you going to do, and how long are you going to do it before eventually you start to solidify certain things? That way, when guys get out there, they don't look clueless sometimes. Like, if I play with this guy more often than not, I know he liked the back cut. So, boom, when I throw that back cut pass, I can expect him to be cutting there, get it on the way to the hole and laying it up. As opposed to, well, I normally play with this guy, but it's a different guy here today. I'm used to that back cut pass. I throw it to this guy, but he flared out to the three, because that's more his, that's more his game, or that's more what he does or what he looks for. But if I haven't experienced that time with him that much, well, then how do I know that? Now I'm trying to read this on the fly. And again, I felt like the playoffs, let alone the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't feel like that's the place to be having those kinds of scenarios take place. So that's why I'm saying, like, even from back then, it seems like he didn't get that portion of his game together, as far as just like solidifying certain lineups and even certain pairings. Like, for example, I haven't seen the Evan Mobley and Thomas Bryant pairing. I'm not saying pounding the table to give Thomas Bryant 21 minutes of basketball a game, but I'm just saying, for all intents and purposes, if small ball ain't working, well, why don't you try that pairing? They had a really high plus minus together, and it was something about them that seemed to work well. It just so happens we haven't seen that throughout the playoffs. So that'll transition into game 2, of course, and my extreme gripe with the collective. All right, so both game 1 and game 2, I feel like this applied, but I especially felt like after game 1, and the fact that I heard fatigue used so often, I felt like game 2, we should try something different. So, Piston series, it took you to 7 games, Kenny, to realize, all right, you know what? Maybe if I try, let me start Max Strus game 7. And then my whole thing with it was this: as great a defense as Dean Wade plays on Cade Cunningham, which we all know, both seeing it and statistically, that's not arguable. even with the great defense that he plays on Cade Cunningham, when you started Max Strus, it wasn't like the Pistons got out to this 12-point lead to start the game. The game was very even keeled, if you will. In fact, it was kind of certain areas where the Cavs kind of was getting the momentum more so, if you will. And so my thing was this: if you could see that and experience that in a game 7 against the Pistons, how is it that Max Strus was good enough to start for you in game 7 versus the Pistons and help you win that game, but somehow he's not good enough to start in game 1 versus the Knicks? And even if you didn't start him in game 1 versus the Knicks, well, once you blew that lead in historical fashion, the way that you did, you mean to tell me it don't go off to you in your mind? Well, you know what? It worked game 7 when I started Max Strus. Let me just try Max. And we know I'm the Jalen Tyson person. But like we discussed before, the last time we talked, I said if it was one person that I could feel like would give me similar to what I would get from Tyson, it's Max Strus, and I'm completely fine. Yeah, give me Max Strus then. If I can't have Jalen Tyson, give me Max Strus. I want him. And you mean to tell me, because the level of, this is my thing, the level of fighting intensity that Max Strus has, it negates to a certain level in my mind when he's not making his shots. When the shots aren't going down, his toughness, his ability to be able to take charges, create extra possessions. He was doing that in the game 7 versus the Pistons. It was a play where all the other Cavaliers had ran back down the court, but Max Strus was still out here fighting for the ball. He ends up, the ball getting ready to go out of bounds off of the Cavs. He gets the ball, jumps out of bounds, throws it off the Pistons defender, boom, out of bounds off you. And then Strus looked down at all the Cavs, tell, hey, come on back. We this way. Come on back here. That's creating extra possessions. That is affecting the basketball game, even when your shot may not necessarily be falling. And not only that, like I say, I feel like Strus has, the tough mindset, the grit, even in some situations where he may not have the physicality, as far as maybe he might not be as tall as the other guy or weigh as much as the other guy or be as strong, he's still not a pushover. Still, by any stretch, by any means. So for me, I'm extremely disappointed, dare I even say upset, at the fact that Kenny cannot get out of his own way with the trust of Dean Wade, Max Strus, and Sam Merrill. I'm tired of it. I am absolutely tired of it, man, because this is my thing. All right, now, surprisingly, the person that I have the least to say about of the trio is Dean Wade. Honestly, he's the least that I have to say about the trio, because respectfully, when he's out there, he does what he's supposed to do for the most part, which is play good defense. So as long as he takes care of that, it's hard for me to it's hard for me to try to dissect anything else, because that's your job. So as long as you're doing your job, man, it's hard for me to be asking you to do something that ain't your forte. But to kind of say what I mean, so Max Strus, I'm just speaking about strictly the Eastern Conference Finals, just these 2 games. In 50 minutes worth of basketball, he 3 of 13 from the field, shooting 23%, and 3 of 10 from 3-point range, shooting 30%, with 6 turnovers, and he's a combined minus 28. As much as I love Max Strus, and I pound the table for him, if I can't have Jalen Tyson, let's start Max Strus. Respectfully, for Max Strus, hey, this isn't going to get it done. And if this is what I'm going to get from you, then by all means, instead of you having 50 minutes of basketball in these 2 games, maybe we should dial that back a little bit. If somehow, which I feel like Kenny can't, he struggles with this, just like I said before, identifying when a guy has it or when he doesn't have it. Sam Merrill, 51 minutes of basketball. 5 of 17 from the field, 29%, and then 3 of 15 from 3-point range, 20%. A combined minus 25 in the 2 games. So again, it's like, even though I made a blanket statement before, and blanket statements can be taken out of context, when I'm like, well, when he not knocking down that 3, what else he doing out there? He just logging minutes. He just running around. Well, respectfully, this is what I mean when I say, like, well, Sam Merrill, your best trait is knocking down threes. The way he was flame throwing in, what was that game? Games 5 and 7, actually, against the Pistons. The way he was just flame throwing, I mean, just absolutely on fire from three. And then you're otherworldly. Like, that's the trait that you have that other people can't do that. When we talking about Sam Merrill and he plays great team defense and maybe he's great on closeouts. Okay, well, I get it's other players that can do that. Keon Ellis can be great on closeouts. He can play great team defense. He can do that. But you know what Keon Ellis can't do? He can't be a flamethrower from three-point land like you can, Sam Merrill. So respectfully for me, the only thing I'm saying is when I'm getting these kinds of numbers from Max Strus and Sam Merrill, as much as I understand what they do and also love it, these numbers to me warrant giving other individuals an opportunity to play basketball and see if maybe they may be able to help you a little bit more than what you're getting from these guys. Of course, you know, I wanted to be Jalen Tyson. I was surprised that Tyson even got any minutes at all in game 2. I turned the TV off and turned it back on again just to make sure. I thought it might have been because Anthony Davis is doing like the prank thing now, so I didn't know if we was running this in real time or what was going on. But I saw Tyson out there. I'm like, oh wow, this is wild. I'm like, let's see how long this lasts because the previous game, Keon Ellis got out there, but only for 5 minutes. What Keon Ellis going to do in 5 minutes of basketball? He can't even get a lather in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, he might not even touch the ball. So if you're gonna put a guy out there, let him get some minutes, let him try to get a lather. And then respectfully, in the 10 minutes that Tyson had, he wasn't shooting the ball great. He was 1 of 4, didn't make a 3, but played phenomenal defense, was pretty good on the boards, you know what I mean? And when we looking at his plus minus, but he broke even. So clearly he was doing, you know, he even if the shot wasn't going, he was affecting the game positively in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I've ranted enough about it. Yo, I want to hear your take now. I want to hear you. Come on and tell me why Max Strus and Sam Merrill is doing so good. Give me the data sheet. Give me the analytics. Tell me why they should be out there.
Before I do that, you got Jalen Tyson's stat line for the playoffs?
I'm going to be honest, I don't. I know it is pretty much similar to them. That's why I didn't even bother to look it up because I'm pretty sure it's the exact same thing. Like, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same thing.
Yeah. So I think all of what you spoke to gets to one of the biggest issues, and I'm sure there's probably some blame to be shouldered on Kenny for, but there has been no consistency game to game as far as which role player is going to show up. You know, he talked about that to an extent in some of his post-game stuff. Early in the postseason, he said, you know, hey, there's going to be a role player that steps up each and every game. Later, I think in round 2, he had said, well, we had a Dennis Schroeder game. We had 2 Max Strus games. We had a Jared Allen game. Like, there's been someone different every game. Within that, though, you don't know who's going to perform consistently and who's not. I think that's one of the biggest issues when you get to lineup combinations is you may play the guy who played well last game, but then he's not playing well the next game. You know, Max Strus had his great run there, and then the last 4 games, he hasn't shot above, I think, like 35, 36% from 3. Dennis Schroeder, Donovan Mitchell, you know, we talked about that. That always seemed like the best option. In the regular season, they had a 124.1 offensive rating together without James Harden. In the playoffs, it's 99.1. Flip that to James Harden. Harden and Schroeder had a 112.1 offensive rating in the regular season. Now in the playoffs, they have a 127 offensive rating in the playoffs. So even stuff that we thought worked and made the most sense hasn't translated to the postseason, and you haven't gotten consistency from any of our role players to say, okay, I know I can count on this guy in this spot because he's been performing. We have no idea who's going to perform each and every game, and that's been one of the issues, even going back to the very first New York Knicks series and consecutive series after that, is the Cavs role players, for whatever reason, are not able to perform consistently at the level they need to be able to know who's going to perform and how they're going to support their best players. I mean, even going back to last game, we talked about all the different combinations of lineups. Dean Wade with the core 4 in the fourth quarter of game 1, -9 in 2 minutes. Max Strus, -4 in 2 minutes. Sam Merrill, -14 in 3 minutes. None of it was working. So, you know, it's hard to be on Kenny too much for that, just because there just hasn't been any consistency for him to stick to and say, yeah, that's my guy. I mean, I think he's going based off of trust. Like, I think he trusts Max Strus the best for a lot of the reasons you had mentioned before. There's about, even if he's not hitting shots, he's contributing in other ways, hustle plays, tenacity, energy. There's still gravity with him. There's still playmaking. I think even to that extent, Sam Merrill's kind of in that same boat. Rebounding wise, he's not going to give you as much as Max Strus or creating extra possessions, but that gravity that he has on the floor, even when he's not hitting shots, taking charges like we saw in Ausar Thompson, almost killed him. God bless him, he didn't. I think those are things that Kenny clings to, even if they're not hitting shots. He knows they're going to contribute in other ways. Going back to the regular season, we talked about consistency lineups and being able to adjust on the fly. The new core four, however you want to term it, they only had 92 minutes together in the regular season. So there just has not been a lot of consistency because as soon as they got Harden, there's been one guy out or another that's gone through injuries, and there just hasn't been enough to say, here's a lineup, I'm sticking to it. It's been, fluctuation and throughout. Jalen Tyson, what I would say, I think there's a lot of things that are true in the situation, and one of the things that playoffs have brought out is I hate how binary people make things out to be. A lot of it is a gray area, and a lot of things are both. Max Strus, Sam Merrill. Well, I would say Sam Merrill, leading up to last game, I think there was 4 straight games of 37% plus from 3-point range. So if anything, he was actually consistent. So to see him do what he did last game and then run one out and then game one has been tough. But Jalen Tyson, as far as he goes, I think they need more consistency out of Max Strus, Dean Wade, Sam Merrill. Absolutely the case. Jalen Tyson probably needs more opportunities. I think at the same time, he has the highest upside of any of those guys, just role player wise. I think what you're seeing from Josh Hart, no reason to think that Jalen Tyson can't be that. That's a big statement. Josh Hart has been great, but I think that is the type of player that Jalen Tyson can be at his ultimate peak. And I don't think Strus, Merrill, any of those other guys can reach that type of impact in the multiple facets like Tyson could. At the same time, Jalen has also not taken advantage of the opportunities that have provided to him throughout this playoffs. Maybe they're a lot smaller. Maybe they're not as big, but when it's in the playoffs, we've heard it time and time again, Dante Jones, finals, when your number is called upon, you better be ready. You better be ready to produce. And yes, I think Kenny has shown a little bit more trust in some of the veteran guys. At the same time, when you're a second-year player, that's just how things go. I mean, even in life, there's a lot of times experience, seniority. They're going to go with that over the younger guy, even if all options are equal. So I think all things are true. We need better out of the role players. Tyson probably needs more opportunities. He also needs to do more with the opportunities. Because I think if he hit some of those 3-pointers we saw in game 2, I don't think Kenny's taking them out. I think Kenny's looking for someone he knows he can trust and go to. And it just unfortunately hasn't been the case with Tyson. Even going back to the end of the regular season, some of the opportunities were there for him. He was hurt a little bit, but some of the opportunities were there. And he just played well. I think we're looking at him a lot differently now because I think he would have entrenched himself in the rotation more than he did. But of course, he went on a slump when the opportunities were there, and we're now in this space. The final thing I'll say about Tyson is I was really surprised in the Detroit series that can't even try him at home. He had his struggles. Absolutely. The moment was a little bit too big for him. He's a little bit too wound up and didn't allow it to settle down to kind of play and utilize the energy as he needed to. It was almost holding him back. But I thought at home was maybe a good opportunity to get his energy back, get his momentum back, get his confidence back with the home crowd and kind of build that up knowing you're going to need him later. The Knicks series and seeing how they were playing things looked like a prime Jalen Tyson spot from the fact of the way our blitzing screens, that short roll, which he is so good in, that is going to be there for him. When they're rotating off the pick and roll coverages, that backside kick out 3-pointer swing, that is his shot. And even the rebounding in the second units with Mitch Robinson, Josh Hart, like the Cavs are smaller on those second units, and the Knicks are really good rebounding wise in those units. And that's a place where Tyson can contribute because he is one of the better rebounders of that group. So to me, the New York series seems like his type of opportunity if he can take advantage of it. So I'd love to see him take advantage of it. I'd love to see more opportunities. It's just been a struggle so far. And if you can tell me who the best role player is going to be for next game, give me the lotto numbers because I'd love to know.
I definitely feel you on that one. I ain't gonna lie. That part, so listen, that part I 100% agree with as far as the idea of there hasn't been any consistency from whatever said role player, enough to where you say, all right, we know this guy right here penciled in. We know we're going to get XYZ from this guy right here. I do 100% agree with that. However, just to give a little bit of pushback, the only things that I would say, number one, I do think we see it the same way as far as Kenny with trusting the players, with his trust in his players. However, I think he does it to a fault. Okay. And it almost, so it ties into what you were saying about taking advantage of your opportunities when given. Okay. Because essentially, I agree with you. Like, I do agree with that. All right. But one of the parts where I disconnect from it is, well, he's a young player, so I have to trust my veteran more than I do him. Well, I look to situations like Oklahoma City Thunder. Don't have a problem giving Jared McCain minutes in the Western Conference Finals going up against the San Antonio Spurs. I could even look at a situation like when Jason Tatum was a rookie. Eastern Conference Finals 2018 against LeBron James, Game 7, dunking on LeBron James and then chest bumping him and looking in his face like, what you going to do about it? Now, ultimately, they ended up losing that game to the Cavs. But the point was, Coach had enough trust in this guy, even though he's a rookie or whatever. He's going to have a mistake here or there or whatever, what have you. But let me go ahead and let this guy go. Let me go ahead and let him have the belief that I trust in him. I believe in him, because this is my thing with Tyson. I believe he's more of an emotional player. He's more of a feel kind of player. He has emotion, he has intensity, he has fight. And for me, every championship team in every sport, in my opinion, you need players like that on your team as well as actively playing. They can help change momentum. And again, just the intangibles that come with the person who has that kind of attitude. So similar to what I mean is, in the Pistons series, Ausar Thompson choke slams Sam Merrill. He choke slammed him to the ground. Then he steps over him. Now listen, kudos to Sam Merrill for not reacting and then possibly, getting a flagrant one or whatever and this other stuff. I get it. And then Kenny was mad because Tyson got into it with, if it wasn't the Thompson kid, it was Isaiah Stewart. I think he had got into it with, and then Kenny carry up, pull Tyson. You don't ever see him again. My thing with it is this: as much as you want to say like, hey, you can't make a boneheaded play, you got to make sure your head's in the game. Don't get into arguing with him and stuff like that. My thing is this: in the same breath, I watched Ausar Thompson do that, and then his coach still trusting him and give him the ability and the leeway to say, go ahead, we need this from you, because this is helping our identity. It's helping make things tougher for them, because you stepping over people and ain't nobody doing nothing about it. When respectfully, I feel like when you got a guy like Jalen Tyson, you might not necessarily want the rah-rah attitude, but respectfully, when Ausar tried this, when he stepped over Sam Merrill, if Tyson was out there on the court, Ausar wouldn't have been able to take that full step over, because in mid-step, Tyson would have ran over there and bumped him. Now you setting a whole different precedent, letting this other team know, hey, that's not finna happen. Not while I'm out here. Not while I'm out on the court. And instead of empowering a player like Tyson, and I feel like in those moments, you allow him to be him, is he going to make some mistakes? Yes, man. Everybody makes mistakes. Look at the players that he's trusting. They're making mistakes. Example, Tyson got pulled throwing an inbound pass. He threw it to the other team because we only had one outlet. And nobody else would come up to get the ball. So for Tyson to avoid the out of bounds violation, he hurried up and tried to inbound the ball, and then they got stolen away. I watched Dean Wade do that in game 2. He didn't get pulled. He continued to get his regularly slotted 20 minutes. So if I'm a player like Jalen Tyson, I'm looking at it like, man, coach, I've been good enough to play for you all year long. Full spot when you needed me to and you didn't have nobody else. I walked around the locker rooms talking about role player coming through, so I accepted my role. And then the same thing that you took me out for, I watch this guy do it, and it's not a problem. It's okay. Well, if I'm Tyson, that affects me. And then now when I get out on the court, every time the ball comes to me, I'm scared. Because what if I shoot and I miss? If I miss, he going to take me out because I missed the shot. But meanwhile, I can watch Sam Merrill run around for 23 minutes of basketball, shoot 8 threes, and not make a one. And that's okay. He still gets his 20-something minutes, if you will. So for me, my thing with the just slight pushback would be, Kenny, in the idea of trusting your players just because maybe he's the veteran and the other guy is the younger guy, in theory, that sounds great. But if the veteran isn't performing in the veteran fashion and he's giving the same output that you would get from this second-year player, well, in my opinion, what's the difference? You may as well give the second-year player a try and just see if, like I say, tonight might be his night. Like how we saying we don't know night to night which player is going to be the one to show up. What I'm simply saying is, on a night-to-night basis, try the different players and see which one might have it tonight. But if the only players that you keep in rotation is Max Strus, Sam Merrill, and Dennis Schroeder, then the only players that you keeping in rotation. So I don't know if Keon Ellis can help you because you won't put him out there for us to see. I don't know if Jaylon Tyson can help us or not, because when you do put him out there, if you do, you won't leave him out there long enough to see what it is that he's got. Thomas Bryant, I can't remember the last time he's seen the basketball court. So, excuse me.
Oh, I can
when
tell
we
you
get blew out, when we get blew out, I'm with you on that. When we get blew out, it's like, all right, then you'll put him in for 1 minute. That's disrespectful, in my opinion. Don't do that. Leave the people out there that's been getting their butts kicked the whole game that you've trusted so much. Don't then put the other people in later on. It's like, bro, I don't want to go in there. What about all them people that you trusted the whole game? Let them do it. Because I feel like I could have made a difference if you had to put me out there earlier. And again, like I say, even with Thomas Bryant, because Tyson's numbers ain't been the best. Thomas Bryant didn't look the best the last time that we saw him. But respectfully, when I'm watching Dean Wade last game, he had 3 points. He shot pretty good. He was a minus 10 he was a minus 10 on the court with 2 turnovers, if I am mistaken. It's like, all right, if you're going to be a minus 10, I mean, you a minus 10 with 3 points? I think if I give Thomas Bryant 20 minutes, as bad as he looked, I think he could give me 3 points and be a minus 10. I think he can do that. Same thing with Tyson. When I'm saying I'm watching Sam Merrill miss 8 threes, well, I think Tyson can do that. I think he can miss 8 threes and be a minus 8 on the court. I think he can do that. Same with Keon Ellis. I think Keon Ellis can miss 8 threes and be a minus 8 from the court. In fact, I think he could probably do a little bit better. But if we don't put him out there on that night, how would we know? That's not to say that Keon Ellis is better than Sam Merrill, especially not shooting. But on this particular night where you're noticing that it's just not falling for Merrill because pretty much all his threes were open. Like it wasn't really too many contested threes that they were open. They're as good as looks as you're going to get. As good as a 3-point shooter he is in the NBA, those are as good a looks as you going to get, man. They don't get no better than that. Now, respectfully, like we could just say, man, sometimes it ain't saying that Sam Merrill ain't no good. It's just maybe tonight wasn't your night. Instead of sticking with you for 25 minutes of basketball, maybe I give you the 10 minutes, realize that you don't have it tonight. You know what? Let me try Keon Ellis for 10 minutes. If it looks like he has it, then I'll extend his time out there. If it looked like he doesn't have it, all right, well, come on, get on back out and let me put Sam Merrill back in, because when I put you in, I'm getting the exact same thing. So I might as well, now I know for a fact, I might as well just leave Sam Merrill out there tonight. But in closing, I'm just saying, if you don't put the guys out there and then instill the trust in them, which means like leave them out there. Don't the first time he turned the ball over, all right, I'm taking you out. Because we watched James Harden turn the ball over repeatedly, and you will not take him out of the game. So respectfully, just have that same mentality across your roster would be the only pushback that I'm giving. If you got,
Yeah, I'll say real quick. I don't think that's unfair in any capacity, and I agree on a lot of that. The only thing I would say is I trusting your veteran. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I think that's just how things have operated for so long. You can say, well, it shouldn't be like that, but I think we know that's just how things tend to operate. I think it gets back to there is more in the Max Strus, Sam Merrill, James Harden, whoever you want it, cachet bank, where they have more to pull from and say, look, all of what I've done compared to Jaylon Tyson. And so I think saying and knowing that there's things that they have done you can point to and say, I know they can do it because they've done all this. Even when they're struggling, Jalen Tyson doesn't really have that. Now, it's one of those things like when you're job searching, it's like, well, how am I going to get the opportunity if you don't give me the opportunity type thing? Where you're saying, I want, 4 to 5 years of job experience, but I only have 2. Well, how am I supposed to get it? No one gives it to me type thing, right? So I get it. It's a catch-22, but I think that's where some of that trust comes from. And I would say it's within all of that. If you've been with a barber for 15, 20 years, maybe he's starting to slip a little bit. Maybe the cuts aren't as good. The prices are going up. Maybe the equipment that has not looking good. Maybe some new guy comes in down around the corner. He's got all the new stuff. He's got a brand new big screen TV. He's got a pool table. He's got all the drinks. You start looking around the corner and be like, man, that looks kind of good. But you're loyal to your guy. You've been with him forever. You've been with him for 15, 20 years. You don't want to do him like that. That guy almost has to do as twice as good of a job as your old barber does just to go try.
Hey man, touche. That is, I didn't mean to cut you off. You cooking right now. Okay, all right, I'm giving you credit on that one. Go ahead.
So that's kind of how it is, like for young players, and that's why, yes, they're held to a different standard because they need to outperform the historical patterns of the guys they're replacing. And so maybe it's unfair, but because of the trust and the cachet that those guys have, Jalen Tyson has to do a job and do it better. Also has a smaller window, a smaller margin for error. He can't make the same mistakes as James Harden because he's not James Harden, doesn't have all the accolades to point to and say, I can make those mistakes because I've done this. Jalen Tyson can't say that. He has to play clean basketball in order to get those opportunities to then build the cachet to make those mistakes. So I think that's where that comes in. And I throw the barber analogy in because I think it's the one we can all relate to. Like whoever the new person is has to do twice as good of a job as the old person because you don't want to, because you're loyal to that person, been with them through thick and thin, them, so all that to say, I don't disagree. I think it's a feel thing, it's a trust thing, and we all have our different leashes for how long we think they should be out there or the tolerance we have for their bad play. And so, it would make it a whole lot easier if Jalen Tyson just performed, bottom line.
Agreed. Now that part I can agree with. I do believe that it would be much more cut and dry if, kind of like how you say, even if, man, you only out there for 5 minutes, if it's the best 5 minutes in the world while you out there, it makes it a lot harder to argue with you getting more than just that 5 minutes. So that part, I'm with you. Like, one thing that I can say is I can't make it seem like Tyson just has had these outstanding numbers because he hasn't for the playoffs, even the last couple games of the regular season, just being all the way honest. I mean, I can't make up numbers that aren't there. You know what I mean? Again, the only thing I can point to is just feeling like he's more of a rhythm kind of guy. And it's like, it just seemed like it coincided, he start performing poorly when it seemed like he was out of his normal rhythm, when it seemed like a spot that maybe he felt like in his mind he had earned seemed like it was just quickly pulled out from under him. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. For real? Wait a minute. This happened? You serious? And it's like, maybe it even is still kind of in his psyche a little bit, if you would, like, but yes, even still, man, Eastern Conference Finals, man, even with that being on your mind, you got to push that to the side. And when you do get the minutes, man, you got it. I'm 100% with you. You do have to perform. Because like I say, if you get the minutes and then you're given an actual leash to do something, you got to perform. Because if you don't, like I said, all right, get out of there and let me put the other guy back in because you doing the same thing he doing. So I might as well go with my bar. If you doing the same thing, I might as well just stay where I'm at. Might as well just stick with where I'm at. Now, last but not least, going into Game 3, what would you like to see Game 3? And then I would say, what would you, if there is a scenario where you see the Cavs winning this series somehow, what would you think it would take in order to accomplish that? So first, looking forward to Game 3, what adjustments or what would you like to see? And then ultimately, if you think there's a chance for the Cavs to win the series, how do you think that happens?
Kenny Atkinson can't do what he did in Game 1 and Game 2, first and foremost. Role players have to play better. I mean, Josh Hart, Game 2, 26 points, 7 assists. Assist leader for the Cavs had 3 assists, so double the assists. All the other non-core 4 role players weren't even, I think, around like 20, 22, 23 points. Josh Hart had 26. that's not sustainable. You hope Josh Hart is going to have that type of game, but your guys need to step up, and really comes down to shooting. If they can shoot at somewhat of a consistent level to give your offensive floor, that's where you need to get to. We talk a lot, we talked somewhat about defense, how they're defending Brunson. Ultimately, this team is not going to, and we saw it in Detroit and against the Raptors, this is not a rock fight, grind it out, defend their ass off to the end type team. They need to score to win. And I know it's very simplistic to say, of course, you need to score more points than the other team, but this team wins with their offense. When their offense is good, their defense is better. When their offense is good, they are in a much better rhythm. They're not turning the ball over. They're getting paint touches. They're in rhythm. They're getting kick out threes. They're working through the bigs, and that flows into their defense. They're in transition defense less. They're ungodly terrible in transition defense. You might as well James Harden may not even just sprint back, because he is about as Olay as they come as far as transition defense. When they're not having good looks, they're getting turnovers, missed shots. That's leading the runouts. That's leading the pushing the ball the other way, and it's a snowball effect with them. That's why cleaner possessions, better offense is going to lead to better defense. Like I famously say, this is a Sasha Pavlovich team of Sasha Pavlovich teams, because he said, "My offense is my defense," and that is the Cavs this year. So I think moving forward, their offense has to get going. They cannot score 101 points, 93 points in regulation. They're not going to win that way. They're not the Pistons, where they're going to hold the Knicks down enough to where they can win in a rock fight. Their offense needs to get going. So how you do that, they can't go away from the bigs. We saw Mobley and Allen be so productive in the first quarter and then completely disappear throughout the rest of the game. Of course, you can put some on them. They're not to blame in this situation, but there has to be a intentional effort by Kenny and the guards to say they were cooking in quarter one. Maybe they fell off in quarter two. We got to get them going in quarter three, quarter four. We cannot. And that's one of my other gripes with Kenny is he is too willing to let the other team dictate adjustments, or just say, yeah, it's not working. Let me go to something else. Like, if that is your bread and butter, you better have an option one, an option two, an option three, a readjustment to their adjustment. Like, they run off the pick and roll. That ability to get their bigs involved, get paint touches, get spray outs, get kickouts, that is where they operate best. So for them just to fold so quickly at the thought of, okay, we're just going to play drop coverage, we're going to tag the roller to muck that up. Now what do we do? Like, that can't happen as easily as it does. And it went back to even the Raptors series, where they took away the roll game pretty easily, and it took them a couple games to really get back in rhythm. Even with the Pistons, it took them a couple games to start doing some middle drives, open up the floor, get downhill with Donovan. Like, it can't take that long, and it can't be that easily to disrupt you. So their offense has to get going. As far as pick and roll coverage wise, the Cavs eat when they blitz and when they hedge, they hard hedge. Like, they do so well getting to the pocket, getting out. The bigs are good passers on the run. That is where they do best. We saw game two, them play a lot more drop coverage. So they were sinking on any of the picks. They were not letting those pocket passes go. I think adjustment to that is a few different things. One, Harden had a couple looks later in the game that didn't go down for, I think it was Sam, or one went down for Max, one didn't go down for Dean. If you skip that, the ball on the move is faster than any player, any rotation, any dribble. If you can pass effectively out of that, we've seen they can swing out of those plays. They can get the ball out of their hands quickly when they see that. That's one thing. Two, that'll open up if the guy's not going to hedge or the guy's not going to tag the roller. If he knows there's a threat to be skipped over his head, like, those all things come into that. Obviously, if they shoot better, that opens that up as well. But I think Donovan and James have to be more intentional engaging the bigs on those drop coverages. Like, they're only going to drop if they know you're not a threat to shoot. Darius Garland, rest in peace. His ability to beat drop coverage with his pull-up jumper, his threes, that made guys come up then. Like, we didn't really see that with Harden and Mitchell. That should be their bread and butter, that mid-range game that is dead. Like, that is so important to defeating that drop coverage. But additionally, and going back and looking at stuff from game two, I don't want Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart to be the pick defender on that. I don't want you bringing Max Strus, Sam Merrill into those options, because they're athletic enough to hedge or play level with the guy coming off the screen and get back really quickly. They're also agile enough where their hands are going to be in passing lanes. They have long hands, active hands. It's going to be a lot tougher to pass through, say, Brunson and OG than it is Brunson and Cat. Like, those are two different guys. Cat is bigger, but OJ is a better defender as far as just being active. So I'm hoping we see them roll more Cat and Robinson and pick and roll than we did before, because I think those are the guys you want on the perimeter. There was a move late in the game where Donovan got Mitchell looking the wrong way and then went around Brunson for a layup. Like, you want those guys on the perimeter being uncomfortable. And similar to all the one big lineups, when you pull Mobley out, there's no rim protection or not as good rim protection behind them when those guys are on the perimeter. So I think involving them more than going guard to guard, wing to wing screens. And then the final thing I'll say as far as adjustments or things that I hope to see from them in game 3, other than just playing better, is I think there is a false sense of security in playing to the Jalen Brunson switch in quarter 2, quarter 3. Jalen Brunson's a better defender than Harden and Mitchell in isolation, for number one. For number 2, when that happens, the ball doesn't move, the players don't move, they get late looks in the shot clock, and they're not always quality shots. That takes away from the Cavs do well, which is when they're getting paint touches, they're moving the ball, they're getting dump offs to the bigs. I think the Knicks want them to get that. I think they're more willing to concede that switch because of the style of play that results after it is not as productive as running their offense and not going to the Brunson switch. So I think they tried to play into that a little bit too much in quarter 2, quarter 3, and that got them bogged down offensively, and then it was going the other way, as opposed to, I think, when the Knicks go to it, Brunson is so good in isolation, you just can't concede that. You have to make it difficult for him. So I thought Max did a good job of fighting around screens, making it difficult for Brunson. You just cannot concede those switches. It's not a Dean Wayne thing. It's not a Max Strus thing. We've seen it all year long as far as just schematically. They're more willing to give that to them. I'm fine if they get to that at second 6, second 7, second 8 in the shot clock. If you're giving to him right at the 18-second mark and he has 18 seconds of survey, it's not going to end well for you. So I think making that more difficult. But offensively, I think is where they need to get it going. They're not going to win playing offense the way that they are. So I think those things, how they handle drop and really just shooting the ball better, simplistic to say, but they haven't shot the ball well on wide open threes, and you hope that changes at home.
Yeah, the simplistic part, you don't even have to, the way I look at it is like this, math is probably the hardest thing as far as problems to solve, but the way that they say that you solve any and every math problem is you have to break it down to its simplest form. So when you say, I know it's simplistic, I'm 100% with you, because I'm again, that's a part of where a lot of my, thought processes originate, is in the most simplistic form. And then I go and look and see whatever numbers may support or go against whatever that thought process is. But ultimately, everything has to be broken down to its simplest form, especially if we're talking about a problem and how do you solve it. So ultimately, yes, shot making. And then not only that, like how you were saying, as far as just leaning more into having your flow of offense being dictated towards you, as opposed to you being the one to dictate to the other team, nope, this is how things are going to go today. This is how we're going to play basketball. Okay. We're not going to, and even as far as, and even defense, defensively. Cause again, like I was saying, cause I said in the beginning, hey, look, I'm not even saying that just, it's Dean Wade. It wasn't just Dean Wade. It was more than just Dean Wade conceding that switch. No problem. And it almost just seems like, we were just letting him do that. And, times where I understood that Josh Hart is supposed to, we were intentionally leaving him open. Okay, a couple of things. Number one, I understand your strategy, however, if you look at Josh Hart, he's a 42% 3-point shooter in the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. So by theory, number one, you just ignoring the fact, like thinking this guy, that's not a Ausar Thompson. That's not him. So that's for starters. And then second, even if you did think he was Ausar Thompson, after he makes 2 or 3 of those, we shouldn't just be leaving him out there anymore. It shouldn't just be this thing where, all right, we're going to keep harping on that. No, now we need to say, all right, now we need to get out of that. Now let's come up with something, let's come up with something different, because we can't continue to let him do this. We thought it was going to work initially, but what we envision and what's actually transpiring, 2 totally different things. And we can't continue to walk down this road, bump our head up against the wall, and then think that something is going to change here when clearly he's showing us, well, tonight it's just his night. He just has it tonight. It just is what it is. So for me, quickly,
it was game one all over again with the Jalen Brunson down the stretch, possession after possession, didn't do anything. When he did something, it was kind of a half-assed measure. Same thing with Josh Hart. Maybe he regresses to the mean, but maybe, like you said, it's one of those nights you can't just keep letting him have that opportunity. And there's also a happy medium. Like, you don't have to go run up on him and be up on him 100%. At the same time, you also know to act like he's got COVID, you got to stay 6 feet away at all times, either the two. Like,
man, there was an inbound that Brunson had from under the basket where Jared Allen is just sitting in the paint. I can't really tell who he guarding. He got Sam Merrill right in front of him with, I think, Mikal Bridges right here. And then at the top of the key, absolutely nobody. Josh Hart up there by himself. Brunson see it, and he inbounded from under his basket. He just throw the ball out there to Josh Hart. It's a wide open three. Nobody's nowhere near him. And then the way that we was lined up on defense with Jared Allen and then Sam Merrill right in front of him, there wasn't even a way to try to fight to get out there to contest because you blocked off by Mikal Bridges. So when you say acting like he got COVID, that is 100% accurate. And you can see it in real time where you like, okay, what on earth are we doing? What is this? And whatever you do, be definitive about it. If you're going to blitz. If you're going to double. But this soft double, I'm kind of coming out there, but not really. That's not, if you haven't noticed yet, Kenny, that's not work. It's not working, man. So my thing is, I'd rather you just go all out and be wrong than to half it and be wrong about. No, man, if you're going to be wrong, just go ahead, go all the way for it and be wrong. I'd much rather you do that because to me, it looks like, all right, you had a clear path. You was clearly trying something as opposed to it looked like you just throwing crap at the wall and let me see if this stick. And if don't nobody notice, I'm going to take another pile of crap and throw that at the wall and see if that sticks and if anybody notices or not. But for me, in closing, the last thing that I would probably say that I would, maybe want to see, going forward, because clearly the only way that it seems like the Cavs will be able to win this series is in Game 7. I'm not sure, that Game 7 will result in a win. But if we're going to win the series, I think it would have to come down to a Game 7. But as far as what what I would like to see going forward, number one, just like you said, playing better, make some shots, man. For all intents and purposes, Max Strus, Sam Merrill, if you making the shots, man, my mouth shut. I don't have nothing to say. Okay? If you making them shots, man, I don't have nothing, my mouth shut. You doing what you're supposed to do, man. Same way I ain't really said that about Dean Wade, because Dean Wade playing defense. He's doing what he's tasked with, what he's supposed to do. So at the end of the day, I can't be asking him to do something that's not his game. So I also would like to see Kenny try something different with the starting lineup. Even if it isn't something that he sticks to going forward, just to throw a different look at the Knicks, just so that when the Knicks come out, they don't just have this mindset, all right, we already know how this game about to go. All right, hey, look, we know what we're doing already. Maybe just the idea of seeing somebody else different come out there, it may raise their antennas like, oh my goodness, wait a minute, is they doing something different? What they might be doing today? We don't know. So I just want to, hey, maybe for one game, try something different in the starting lineup. And then most importantly, if we saying that fatigue, is contributing to us missing shots and maybe not being as urgent with our rotations, and closing out on shooters and different things of that nature, that's where I say play more of your players off the bench. Let's give Keon Ellis some more minutes. Let's give Jalen Tyson some more minutes, because at the bare minimum, even if they're not making shots, I do believe that they're going to give you the energy that you're missing when it comes to these full rotations that you seem to be a day late and a dollar short on. You seem to be miles behind when it's time to make the full rotation when the ball swings. It seems like somebody's a little too slew-footed to get there, or Harden is just half-assing it, not really getting all the way out there to the level that Ellis or a Tyson would be able to full-blown go out there, because, again, they got fresh legs. They're not tired. They're not fatigued. So by all means, give some of your other guys a little bit of a spell or a little bit of a span, and then put some of these high energy guys in there, man. Especially if you got a portion of the game where you may be up 2 to 4 points. All right, say, well, you know what? Let me get my high energy guys in here right quick, and then if it gets too bad, all right, come on back out, man, and let me go with my veterans that I trust. You know what I mean? So those would probably be the things that I would say maybe for Game 3, man, and hopefully, prayerfully, Kenny does not feel like he can carry his timeouts to the next game.
At this point, there may not be no next game, so.
Yeah, you ain't lying, man. No lie, man. Well, hey, man, as always, man, I greatly appreciate the time. I greatly appreciate the conversation, man. Really enjoyed talking ball with you, my man. No lie, man. It's a great time, man. So I appreciate you for stopping through, man. And again, that is at realcavsfans.com on Twitter. By all means, the man knows basketball. Go on over there, give him a follow, give him a look. You get great content, you get great insight, and of course, you're gonna get a whole lot of analytics too, okay? to help you understand what you see. All right. So we got another one in the books. We'll see how it goes going forward. We may end up leaking again before this is all said and done. Dogs on the couch, signing off.